Hello Marvel Heroes fans, finally the day has come. This is a video on Jean Grey, one of my favorite heroes in this game. But before I go on talking about Jean Grey, both the Phoenix as well as Mental Being, I thought I'd share with you a little bit the vintage photograph on how Jean Grey was like 2 years ago. Alright, so 2 years ago I joined closed beta. It was back in May 11, 2013, and the screen looked something like that. I mean, this is pretty vintage because back then there was still like the user interface was very minimal, and Jean Grey is basically the entire Phoenix out there, and there's no human kind of like a costume. You can't really see anything there. And even by the time I leveled her to 60, which is back in November 2013, she's still very much like a whole blob of Phoenix, and you can't really see much inside. And and back then there was no Euroforge or team insignia, and the inventory was just like this. So I mean, count your blessing. Now it's a lot better with all these extra space, and these things here was there was a max, there's a cap there back then. All right, so I thought I'd give a little bit of history for those who may not have played the game with us for a while. So yeah, that was a history. Now Jean Grey. I would say that Jean Grey is pretty balanced. I have to choose my word carefully because there are a lot of fans out there. She's definitely not at the tier 1 hero that I have, because I always compare my hero, because I gear my hero in a similar way. And of course, if you realize all my videos, I always use gear that I can farm solo. So for example, give you an example, right? I do have a Surtur rune, which I could have crafted something called Fragment of Twilight. Now, if I put this for Jean Grey, of course I can push her DPS to quite a margin there. But all this required raiding with others. So if you are in the raiding, I mean, feel free to farm this rune and craft the best for Jean Grey. I think if you are at that tier, you are probably beyond me in some sense. And you could replace some of this gear with some of the newer access, maybe access, I'm not quite sure, some of the newer raid items. I've seen it on some guys. So yeah, I mean, that would definitely make a difference. But like for all my video, it's very much what you can do in a solo gameplay. What you can do within the solo gameplay, what you can get from there and get the best from it. So that is basically what my video is about. So now I have I'm going to share with you two builds here, both the Phoenix as well as the Mantle, which is the human form. So for those who are new to Jean Grey, she's very special in the sense that when she's in a human form like this, she deals mental power. But as soon as you switch to a Phoenix form like this, which is very nice, now you can see the costume by the way, it becomes like a different kind of power, like become energy. So sometimes it changes the power a little bit, but by and large, if you look at the two spectrum, the mental and the energy, they're dealing pretty much the same thing. There's only a bit differences between the two of them. So the very first question that people always ask is that, shall I go mental or shall I go energy? So should I play Jean as Phoenix or shall I play Jean as human form? Now I've actually done both. All right, I've geared for both. I've spec for both as well. I would think that the mental build may not be as strong as the energy build, and it is off by about I say about 10 to 15%, even with all the gear in. So in that sense, I personally would recommend Jean Grey to be played as Phoenix. But I also respect the fact that some of you really want to play her as a mental. So I mean that you can play the game, I mean, anyhow you like really. But if you really want to get the maximum out of Jean Grey, I think unless you gear around it using some other any hero unique, I would think that the Phoenix form actually do a little bit better. And I have to have some number to support what I'm trying to say is that if you play Jean Grey, basically there's a Phoenix here, there's a Phoenix Force here. Let me just put some toggle on, sorry. And this thing here accumulate as you as you deal damage, so as you deal damage, like I'm going to soon show you. So as you deal damage, just passively, just in there, you see this bar kind of like moves, all right. So it takes about 40 seconds around there, around about 40 seconds to reach the maximum, and then when it reaches there, you have two choices. Either A, use Dark Phoenix in human form, gain a buff for the mental power for a duration of 15 seconds, all right? Or you switch to Phoenix form, whereby you could actually take on a different set of power that you see. And although the buff duration says 15 seconds, I think not buff duration. The Phoenix form actually lasts for about 20 seconds. Sorry. So usually for my Phoenix rotation, I start with 20 second, which is what the signature is. Signature is 20 second cooldown, so it's very nice rotation. 20 second, there's one signature. 20 second, there's another signature. Then I go into Phoenix mode, which lasts for another 20 seconds. So all in all, it's about 1 minute rotation for the Phoenix one. But if you do the mental one, you just get a buff and you continue doing what you're doing. So what do I mean by Phoenix form is that when you can switch to Phoenix form, whereby suddenly become more powerful, and you can do stuff like Mind Shatter, which is like the AOE, and then you can do something called Drain, which is which is like this one, Drain here, all right. And then it kind of like it does quite a massive single target as well. Or you can do this one, Infernal Bow, which is like it's not as powerful, but it does it hit more targets, all right. So all in all, if you look at the number, the Dark Phoenix as a Phoenix form will give me a DPS boost of 60%. So I compare all the potential DPS I could get from a non-Dark Phoenix force, which is this one, Dark Phoenix, versus what I get on the 22nd Dark Phoenix, which is 60% boost of the overall performance. So is that great? I think it's great because in a sense, if you do the mental way, meaning the human form, you gain about the 16.2 mental power for 15 seconds, and the 16.2 actually multiplied by 2.5 because of all the crit and brutal chance that you have and damage you have. Roughly, it's about 2.5 times you multiply by onto that to give you the overall performance, and that comes up to about 40.5% on a shorter duration. So I mean, just by looking at the number itself, tell me there's a story there that within the Phoenix, Dark Phoenix as a Phoenix form will actually yield me more damage on the sense. All right. So, but I'll share with you both builds. Because some really want to play Jin as a mental and cannot stand Jin being a Phoenix. All right. So the second question that you should ask yourself is should you play hybrid, because Jin can be played as either human form, which is mental, or Phoenix form as a energy, or a hybrid. So now hybrid opens up a whole lot of gear. So before the Grade 80 Legendary, I would say hybrid is really the way to go, because I'll show you some number later. But for those who want to stick around later of the video, I'll show you those raw number. But just take my word for it. The hybrid versus the non-hybrid gear. When I talk about gear, what I'm not talking about is talking about this dupe artifact, as well as this so-called the power dupe, all right, and also the power cosmic as well. So these are the three hybrid gear I'm talking about. And the hybrid versus non-hybrid gear, if you use Gunir, and I use a Hand of Doom just to illustrate if I replace the artifact, and I use one of the energy barrage as well for the rune word. There's a dip of performance 7%, so you lose 7%. You lose 7% to use a non-hybrid gear. So that is pretty substantial. All thanks to, of course, the first affix that you see, 19.6% base damage versus boss. But even if you take that away, all right, the non-hybrid gear still have a dip of 2%, so it still lose out even if I don't proc this, because my target could be just elite or normal mobs. All right. So in short, I can pretty much say with confidence that you have to do stand dancing. What does that mean? It means that as you attack the target, you have to sometimes switch to human form, sometimes switch to phoenix form. All right, to give you all the procs that you have from the dupe ectoplasm, as well as the power dupe, as well as power cosmic for grade 70. All right, so yeah, I hope that convinced you that you have to do the stand dancing. All right. As for the grade 80 legendary, if you stick with your power cosmic, you are losing about 9% performance versus someone who has the cosmic control rod. All right, so I always recommend cosmic control rod for energy. So if you play as a phoenix, what I do play as a phoenix, just use mental to proc the couple of like a gear, like the artifact as well as the power dupe. You would be losing 9% if you stick with your power cosmic, but bear in mind that the grade 80 cosmic control rod has a 1000 OD mark price tag to it. Now, if you want to play a true hybrid and switch around with the mental and energy, which I totally not recommend, just to even out the two damage type, you could pick a bow, but the bow is like a 3% deep. You lose out 3% overall performance against the cosmic control rod. So why do that? So okay, so that I hope it addressed the all the questions on whether you should go mental or energy, hybrid or non-hybrid. All right. So the last thing I would like to, a couple of things I would like to talk about before I go into the actual gameplay is about the rotation itself. Now, the rotation is actually quite complex when it comes to playing Jin, because the power that I pick, there are a couple of power that I picked from the from Jin's perspective. I think that there's only a few standard one. I will show you the number later on in the video if you those of you who are interested in the mathematics behind it. You have to use Mind Crush because of the vulnerability, but the Mind Crush is very weak, so you don't want to invest too much in it. You have to use the Psychic Lethargy because there's a very long damage over time, about 10 seconds, so that's great. You have got to use the Telekinetic Throw for either build anyway. It's one of the hardest hit power you have is a range, and although it tags as a range, it's actually, to me, it's like an area, because it not only hit the first target, but it hit the energy and enemy beyond the first as well. So yeah, it is great. Kinetic Wave is interesting because I will not work it on a single target rotation for the fact that in order to benefit from the kinetic wave, you have to be quite close to the target, number one. Number two is that it has a slight animation to affect my telekinetic flow, and this DPS is not that great. Basically, I lose out DPS if I mix that in for my under my studies. So I don't really use that unless I'm in an area situation whereby, like Cosmic Patrol in Phoenix form. This is very nice because the cooldown can be shortened depending on the number of mobs around you. But if you are doing single target and so on, and also for Cosmic Patrol, you wouldn't want to get too close to all the action in front. All right, that's arranged. And this one you have to max out anyway. The Crushing Telekinesis, which is the signature of Jean Grey, is all right. It's not that fantastic. And then you have to have the Dark Phoenix here, and then this one gives you a stand dancing. So now, what exactly do you do, right, in a single target rotation? So I've mapped out something for you. Don't get freaked out. I'm always here to help, but it is quite hard to execute because there's no indication on when to do what. All right. So this one has a. So okay, let's talk about cooldown. Right. This one has a 6.5 second cooldown. So every 6.5 seconds you have to reapply. This one has 10 seconds. Right. So every 10 seconds you have to reapply. Right. This one is 20 seconds. All right. But on top of that, you have something called the power dupe. All right. That you have to do it every 7 seconds. And of course, the Power Cosmic every 10 seconds. But that's fine because you will get there. So what it really tells you a story is that you would like to align some of this cooldown, although you try to maximize everything. You want to align the Power Dupe, the stand dancing together with the Mind Crush. So Mind Crush being the weaker of the weakest of my power, usually I use it on the stands that I'm not specializing. So for instance, if I'm doing Phoenix, I'll switch to mental to do the mind crush, and then switch it back to Phoenix and do my DPS. If I'm doing the mental human form, the mental build, then I'll use the Phoenix to do the mind crush, and I'll do the rest in a human form. So this one become my reference, number one. The second reference is the crushing telekinesis, because it has a 20-second cooldown, and the best of it is that it's a countdown. I need the countdown to tell me when to apply what. So I'm going to show you something to show you some appreciation of where I'm talking about. All right. So basically, when it comes to Jean Grey, there's a rotation to it. So the first one is just the tick of it. So 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second, 5 second, 6 second, so on and so forth for 20 seconds. Because within the 20 seconds, you can do the signature. And the last row is basically countdown. So once you execute the signature, I start to have countdown. So these are the marker for me to reapply stuff that I want to. So let's talk about the lethargy instead. That one is 10-second cooldown. So that's very easy. So every 10 seconds, all right, every 10 seconds I have to reapply. So when the cooldown click to 10, I have to reapply the lethargy. All right. As for the mind crush, it's actually you start with the beginning in human form or Phoenix form, the weaker of the two that you specialize in. And then on the 13th second of the cooldown, you apply again. On the 6th second of the cooldown, you apply again. So this is actually important, because that help you to know when to do what. All right, and you repeat it twice for the 20 seconds, and after that you get into a Dark Phoenix mode whereby you can do your Dark Phoenix stuff. So in terms of stand dancing, maybe I'll just show you slowly this time. All right, so in terms of stand dancing, right. First of all, you go in, apply the mind crush, like I say, then you dance it to the Phoenix, and then apply the lethargy, and then after that you just spam the telekinetic flow, and on the 13th second, then you switch it back and do the mind crush again, and switch it back to Phoenix. On the 10th second, you apply the lethargy, and on the 6th second, you switch it back and do the mind crush, and then towards the tail end of it, you probably want to switch it back and reapply all these things to start the new cycle. So what I'm talking about here is that, first of all, you start the timer, right? You start the timer, so 19, then you go like this, you switch to Phoenix, apply a lethargy, and then after that, when you click the 13, you go back to the mind crush, then you switch it back to the Phoenix, and then when it comes to 10, you apply the lethargy, and then when it comes to 6, you go back to the mind crush, and then you go back to here, and then before it get to the end, then you apply all of them again, and then after that signature in, after that go in Dark Phoenix, and then you mind shatter, and then do the single target draining. All right, and this part is something that I would like to also show you, because this has an 8-second timer to it. All right, so you have to reapply it every 8 seconds. So what it really means is that at this Dark Phoenix mode, you start with somewhere here, right, and it kind of like cool down all the way here. So somewhere around here, you can use a stopwatch to time yourself to get a sense of it. Somewhere, you can't really see it from here. Somewhere around here, you have to reapply your, somewhere around here, you have to reapply your mind shatter, because that will buff your single target power, all right? So, and then somewhere around here, you have to reapply again, because the whole thing is about 20 seconds. So the mind shatter lasts only for 8 seconds. So it's when you start, you have to do a mind shatter. Somewhere around here, you do again. Somewhere around here, do again. And usually at the tail end, I do it again, because that DOT, damage over time, massive damage over time, is going to carry forward to the next rotation. So I know Jean Grey is crazy. To get the best out of her is actually very, very challenging. Yeah, but that is on the that's on the Phoenix mode. But on the, if you do it on the other one, let me see whether I can just switch it out for you to see. So now I'm actually on the human form. All right. So now I have switched to something called the human form. So I'm not going to do Phoenix on this form. I'm going to put some gear on. These are the gear for the non-Phoenix form. Okay, the whole rotation is very similar. The only thing that I swapped out is that I do not do kinetic wave anymore, because I think kinetic wave is more for a Phoenix one, because the more enemy you hit, the cooldown get reduced, right? So instead, I use something called the neural panic. Now for non-Phoenix form, let me just put the aura in. Oh, sorry. Okay, so these are already on. So for non-Phoenix form, the damage over time is actually pretty alright. I mean, you're looking at 17,000 from the lethargy, and the about 16, 17,000 on the neural panic. Alright, it's just that this one need to reapply quite more often than this one. By the way, the gear that I switched actually buffed the telepathy instead of Phoenix, so it kind of makes sense. Telekinesis stay there as it is, but instead of all these wonderful points that you put here, you put the points here because you need the 2 damage over time. The reason why I picked this one and not the kinetic wave is that I need the 2 damage over time layer for the human form to work. Alright, this is the rotation for human form. So assuming that you always start with the Phoenix side, which is the energy damage to proc your hybrid gear. So just slow motion, you go back to human form, apply the you start with the signature so that the timer starts cutting backward. Then you apply the Mind Crush and the Neural Panic and also lethargy. And then on the 13th second, you switch it back to the Phoenix form, apply Mind Crush, switch it back to the human form, apply the Neural Panic, and then on the 10th second, apply lethargy. Alright, and then after that, on the 6th second, you go back to the Phoenix form, apply the Man Crush, going back to the human form, apply the Neural Panic. Alright, so basically that's about it. And after that, then the whole signature comes and the whole rotation starts again. Alright, so just to fast forward the whole thing so you know what I'm talking about. It's actually take a little bit of practice, but it's not that bad. So assuming that you already take on the Phoenix energy side, you go back here, you start the signature. Alright, then Mind Crush 1, 2, 3. Then after that, just spam your main spender. On the 13th second, you go back to Mind Crush, then you switch it back human form to Panic, and then lethargy on the 10th one just now. Then coming back on the 6th second, go Mind Crush, and then the second one. Alright. So after that, then you can do lethargy and then do a signature. So yeah, I mean the whole thing just repeat itself. And if you have the Dark Phoenix to buff your mental power, just do it anytime when you're at your mental rotation. All right. So yeah, I mean it sounds a little bit tedious. It's a little bit more tedious than the Phoenix form because you have to manage 2 DOT instead of 1. But I mean sometimes you just want to play the hero that on the form that you like. All right. So let's talk about build. I know this video is getting a bit too long because Jean is so complex when it comes to playing Jean. Seriously, I mean those of you who has played her probably would agree with me that getting the best out of her is not always easy. So let me just take out some of these gears and okay, I'll show you the build. So when it comes to the Jean build, I still have some gear that I haven't taken off, I guess. Strange. Let me just pull everything off. Alright, so that looks better. Okay, so when it comes to the whole Jean, this is the mental form. The mental form is very much like, I put max out on this one, 1 point of traveling power, 1 point on this aura for give you crit and accuracy. I don't need the 2 of them here. Like I mentioned, I need the 2 DOT layers, so I have the lethargy as well as the neural panic. But just remember to apply them at the same time. So I always kind of forget when I play the non-human form, which is the one that I don't really play that often. Then you have this one that you have to max out because it gives you quite a nice passive, right? And then you have the Phoenix form that, I mean, even if you are not playing Phoenix form, you probably need to max this out because of the damage rating buff that you have. This one is the Phoenix, even if you're not in Phoenix, you are getting a damage over time, so it's nice to have, but you have to get a little bit closer to the action to make this one work. Just 1 point in this Corona is for your damage absorption, and the Dark Phoenix, even if you are not Phoenix form, then you just get this for the mental buff. All right, so that is for the mental build. For the Phoenix build, it's very much similar. I put kinetic wave is just at the area kind of like scenario. It kind of help a little bit, but it doesn't really help on a single target rotation. 1 point in this aura as well. Max out on this one, and max out on this one as well. This 2 is very important, and this one is the passive I max out. Okay, and this one you have to max out this one anyway, but I skip this one because I don't really need that in the because when you play the Phoenix form, the gear is not on telepathy, so this one is pathetically low, about 10k. So I become like a more animation problem to me. All right, so Phoenix, you just have to put in the max, these two out and this one out, put 1 point here, and you're sorted. You're awesome. All right, so you're awesome. And in terms of the gear choice, like I mentioned, let me just put back my gear so that you can see what I've got. Okay, let me just get it back. All back, and let me just put back my Phoenix gear first. All right, so in terms of gear, you can put any gear that you find useful to a character. I mean, what I hear is just what I have here is just my suggestion. If a better one, I think mandatory, you have to probably use this one for your hybrid build, and also, I always a big fan of Metasensory. But I mean, I happen to have quite a nice Magneto one as well. Anything that increase both the flat damage and the crit side usually is better than artifact that only have one side to it, because the product become the product of the flat damage versus the crit side become the overall damage. So I would strongly suggest you take a look at this one. But you can put in any other things, and Gem of the Curse as well. Why this one is this one is pretty alright. It's not that great. I mean, Hand of Doom probably is better, but how many Hand of Doom do I have, right? So Power Dupe I mentioned, and I use the range relics, and ring wise, I mean, just use what you have. You could suppose, because I play both mental and energy, but you could suppose use an Industrial City unique ring if you want to. All right. In terms of the unique I use, or her unique, I personally think Gazillion should just spam some of the +1 to Oran to some of this unique, because just like what they did to Iron Man, close the gap, make her a tier 1 hero. I mean, why not, right? And if you are telepathy, use the Time Traveler. No, if you are the human form, use the Time Traveler, the Atom Chain Belt, as well as the Nexus Mask. These are very good for the human form. This one I think is one of the old design. I mean, I don't recommend using the Phoenix Ring, and the whatever niche Phoenix at rank 31 is not that powerful. Right. So the last one, a lot of guys probably ask you to use this one. I've gone through a calculation. The area damage only account for 31% of the total DPS I have. So the question is that, would you want to buff the 30% of the DPS? This is a very good artifact. Or would you like something that buff the entire 100%? The choice is yours. But I don't believe that I should buff the 30%, because I know a lot of my single targets is on the on this guy here, the telekinetic throw, which is a range tag. If it's a range/area, then there's no brainer. All right, unless it's a bug on the tagging. All right, so I hope that that is enough to kind of cover everything. I mean, Team Insignia, just do what you need. For the costume, just crit damage rating, she's very durable in Cosmic Patrol, as well as the any environment anyway, no spirit issue. And for the pets, just these kind of stats are very basic. I mean, very standard for non-summoner. Basically, go for the +8 health, +50 spirit, 10 brutal damage, +1 to all ranks, and also +3 fighting. So I have 2 pets, one for summoner, one for non-summoner. All right. Okay. A lot of questions asked about how about the StarTech cubes. So if you can afford to keep farming for Jin, now of course there are 2 options there, right? One is the Dark Phoenix, because that buff the 20 seconds that you have on this 1 minute rotation. Another one also I think is the telekinetic throw is probably one of the very good options, because it hits like a truck. So yeah, so that is part 1 of the video. Then I'll probably go through some gameplay, and then probably come back and talk about Omega's points and so on. All right, Cosmic Modok and Jin. So now you're going to see her in action, and it's actually a lot easier, because you don't need to think too much about the rotation, like versus the single target. So you just need to make sure that you keep swapping between the 2 every 7 seconds or 10 seconds, and that's about it. I mean, but it's more like after a while, it's like an art. Like okay, when should I swap? It's just anyhow, about 10 seconds or so, 7 seconds or so, you just swap to another I mean, it's a lot more fun when you don't need to think about too much about rotation, I would say. And I mean, you know, she's pretty durable and she has zero spirit issue, as you can see in the real situation here. Now is what the octopus, and let's make sure that I got the thing on and signature, and then switch to Phoenix form, and let's hit, and and that's it, right? So you know, ooh, I got the share quest done. Wonderful. All right, so I just grab all these things first. Okay, so the I mean, it's very powerful when it comes to the cosmic you know, terminal. Although her single target may not be that fantastic, I mean, she's doing pretty well in certain scenario like this. Just make sure that you swap between two. As and when you know you feel that it's 7 seconds up. I mean, I don't know. I'm actually quite good at counting internally. Maybe it's the World of Warcraft training because you know back then I have to keep counting when should I do what. So you know internally you have a clock ticking like, okay, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, you know, whatever. Then yeah. So but I know some don't play that way, like my wife, and she's like totally dislike having to count things. So yeah, but that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to count that. You just switch us. You know, just have the fun of it. Stand dancing. Although it's a bit artificial, I would say the whole entire thing. There's no benefit to switch to dance at all. Just the benefit from the hybrid gear, of course. And that's it. Yeah, she's having a lot of fun when it comes to Cosmic Terminal. But you have to be careful though. When she's not in the Phoenix form, she's actually taking quite a lot of damage in human form. So you have to be careful because she gained health in the Phoenix form. All right, I think. All right. So let me just get to the second boss, and then I can show you Modok. And I mean, you'll just conclude the kind of like gameplay that she has. All right. Okay. Done and done. Okay. All right. So just she's around, and I think that is a wizard. So 1, 2 Phoenix Force and form. Then my signature. Then this is the one that is flying a lot of bolt. You see, and that is nice because that is the AOE. All right. So we just reapply a thing, and wow, this wizard is a little bit durable, huh? So yeah, I mean every 8 seconds you have to apply the Mind Shatter, and that you're sorted. All right. So you just have to somehow remember that even though you are not concentrating on your rotation. If you play Jean Grey long enough, everything becomes second nature, trust me. You don't need to think that hard when you play her long enough and understand like what you should do when. So, but I mean, you know, you do have to pay attention to the rotation that I mentioned when it comes to single targets in a raid environment. If you want to maximize the amount of damage you deal, all right? So I think, hang on a second, I think I'm getting close to my dog somewhere. Right. Or she can fly. I mean, she can fly pretty well as well. Now, the thing about I mean, she's not really a very good hero to farm Cosmic Terminal because the fact that you have to start with the Dark Phoenix on full for any of the boss because that make her powerful. If not, then she's just not that great when it comes to. So okay, 1, 2 Phoenix form, and then signature. Just everybody shut up and switch to Phoenix Force. Okay, I need to clear all these mobs here first. So now I'm dealing with Modok, and okay, oh, she has teleported somewhere, huh? All right, and I mean the kill time is all right. I mean it's not that fantastic, but I mean there's certainly a lot of fun when it comes to all these. Little mobs around, not much resistance there, and although I mean you could also say that the Cosmic Terminal is getting a lot easier these days, but yeah, I mean I hope that gives you a sense of what Jean can do. When you do a stand dancing, it's not that tedious. If once you get the hang of it, but it's a bit artificial because there's no benefit at all when you switch between the two anyway. It's just to make sure the hybrid gear get prop. Okay, so yeah, so that concludes the whole gameplay part, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Omega system and so on for those who are interested, and also for the maths behind it. All right, when it comes to Omega system, again, it's pretty standard when it comes to what you can do. 10 points on spin tech, provided that you have high enough Omega point. If not, then I mean, the one that I'm using is about 80% cost effectiveness when I assign points. But if your Omega point is lower, then you probably take a little bit lesser. Rather than put in 10 points, you probably put I've got another video on how you allocate points, and yeah, that probably may help. Nowadays, I like to just have a little bit of health from here, and also because I have some spare points to put in, so say why not take have a little bit of health. It helps. 13 points on Shadow King. That is for the crit hits as well as brutal strike. Those are good stuff. For energy, you take this one. I'll take this one. I mean, if you are into mental, of course, you could go this path, and you'll benefit mental more because it has a lot of like a plus. It has a few of those plus mental damage and kind of things. So I mean, all these are very much to the bias towards the mental. So but my gene is more like a Phoenix gene. So I picked this plus 10 instead. Yeah, I mean, the choice is yours. It costs quite a fair bit though. Then Guild Suppression, as always, this is for the brutal strike, get you a little bit more brutal. I don't pick anything here for Jane, and yeah, this is just to dump the point there. I mean, anything that you left behind for 1 or 2 or 3 points is dump it here. Okay, so this is interesting, right? Usually I put 9 points here, but since it's for hybrid, so I put 10. For non-hybrid, I'll just put 9 because I don't want to pay too much for it. 4 points here for more for the brutal side of it, and that's about it. Very simple when it comes to the Omega points. Just pick those big ticket items and just assign accordingly. Don't overdo it. All right. So hero synergy is the standard stuff. I've got another video on hero synergy, so probably you can check that out as well. The next part is about the mathematics behind it. So some of you may be interested in the theory behind it. So I thought this part of the video is really for you. I've compared, like I mentioned before, I compare the gene with the hybrid gear. All right, this is with the boss buff and without the boss buff, and with what potentially I could have done using the Hand of Doom or different kind of Euroforge, as well as the different kind of like Gunir. All right, so I mean, it still come up to the best is still the hybrid gear. I mean, even you're looking at the not against the boss, which is the gray area here, it's still better than the non-hybrid gear. So what the bottom line is that you have got to go hybrid, play that stand dancing anyway. So that is point number 1. Point number 2 is that if you bring in the grade AT legendaries like the energy rod and so on, I mean, these are what I've talked about just now earlier on. You could see the difference between this one is 91% on the hybrid gear versus the 100% on the energy control rod, cosmic control rod. All right, so pick this one for Jean Grey if you have 1000 OD marks. And as I mentioned before in the Iron Man video, I'm not going to talk about the detail here. Is that I analyze all my damage rating from the gene, and both on the mental and the energy side is a little bit hard, but I've done it. So this the mental and the energy, so I split them up. The difference is not really a lot, so I just do a 50-50, but it doesn't really matter. All right. Another point about the how I pick my build, right? So I thought that's quite fun to go through, so I'm going to go through it slowly because I think the feedback last time was it went a little bit too fast. So I strip all the gears, I reset the Omega point, I reset all the synergy, and I always start with the basic first. I calculate what's the design. These are raw design, so forget about gear, forget about all the rest of things that alter all these things. I'm looking at how Gazillion designed the hero, right? So this is always my baseline. Whatever I'm doing, just have to beat this guy. These are basic power. So the first one is think about is the telekinetic throw, which is the highest DPS you can find among all the powers you have, and is always also the more spirit efficient. And of course, I calculate using the 40% formula against the boss and elite, which I think is all that matter. In the past I used implosion a lot, but now I mean I look at implosion DPS is not really matching to that. So why do I want to use that suspender, right? As for the kinetic wave, worked quite interestingly. That for mental, it actually hit harder. But for energy, it reduced the the cooldown. So I mean, you know, I think this is just a little bit biased. I mean, don't take too hard about. I mean, all this DPS supposed to be on single target anyway, so I'm not going to do this. All right. So, but what the story says is that you know, you could use the mechanic to reduce kinetic wave, but the DPS is just not really that. I mean, it's not even 10k. Mind Crush is really low. I mean, even you max out at 20 ranks, you are looking at this DPS versus this DPS versus this DPS. So you know, don't max out your Mind Crush. No, never, ever. All right. Physical Lethargy is the only DOT that is lasts for 10 seconds. It's all right. I mean, you know, it's it seems lower than the kinetic wave in a sense, but it's a damage over time. All right. And then the Neuroplanic also for human form, then you probably want to pick this one. The difference is very little, just that you have to apply it quite frequent, a little bit more frequent. So you align that with the Mind Crush cooldown. So you know, these two probably align together. Phoenix String is something that I used to do before they have created something called telekinetic throw. But I mean, even with the buff, because you know, target affected by lethargy as well as neuropanic. I mean, the reality is that if you play Phoenix, you probably won't go into neuropanic anyway. But say if you do, then the 10% buff is only about 30k versus the 42k. So you still lose out for quite a fair bit if you use the Phoenix Strain. Then as always, the signature is never good at DPS, but it's good at burst damage. But it has a 2.5 second animation, so it take a hit on your genes. So what I've done is that, okay, so I picked the run that I really want, I put back all the gears and come up with the spreadsheet on all the end game kind of like DPS. These are real DPS in an end game situation, and then you know, these are 1 point and so on. So I then can work out. Oh, by the way, I've also like telekinetic throw, I actually take a animation penalty. So when you calculate the rotation DPS, always factor in the animation penalty, because your single spender cannot run 100% of the time. All right. So after blah blah blah, everything up, then I work out the total DPS area to single target is only about 43%. But when you look at the when you go to the Dark Phoenix form, you can also take the number up, and you see it's pretty massive when it comes to the single target Dark Phoenix Strain. All right, so you can work out the DPS as well and realize that the area versus the non-area is, you know, that much, and you get a gain of DPS on that 20 seconds that I mentioned about, just compared to the spreadsheet before. And after all, you can work out the area. So I hope this video is useful for Jean. I really hope that Gazillion will just spam some +1 to Jean, just maybe a few here and there, and she'll be sorted tier 1 hero. Otherwise, she's pretty balanced. All right, bye, till next time. See ya.